Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zolotech, and this past week we're seeing that Apple may be increasing the price of future products again. We're hearing more about AirPods getting health features, iOS 16.4 Beta 4 or RC is expected this week, and much more. This is your news update for the week of March 13th, 2023. Now, next year's iPads could see a large price increase when they're said to switch to OLED. Currently, on the 12.9-inch, we have mini LED to provide the backlight. There's some advantages to this as far as the overall color accuracy over time, but OLED would give it more of a vibrancy, deeper blacks, less blooming, and also provide just a better experience as far as the overall thickness. Apple could change the designs more easily with this. This isn't a report from the elect. They will not only switch to OLED, but the estimates are Apple could increase the starting price to $1,500 for the 11-inch and $1,800 for the 12.9-inch. That's a huge increase for panels we've had for a while. So that's something I hope they don't do. I hope they actually keep the same price or decrease them. But in general, I love the iPad. Hopefully it just won't have PWM to control the brightness and it won't be a problem as far as flickering. But other than that, I love this iPad. It's my main device, so hopefully they don't increase it too much, if at all. Last week, Apple had a shareholder meeting where it decided that if Tim Cook meets all the company goals, he would be compensated almost $50 million. Now, most of this would be in stock and bonuses after a $3 million salary, $6 million bonus, plus $40 million in stock. This is actually a reduction from last year by 40% or more. So he's actually taking a pay cut as the economy is downturning. Even though $50 million sounds like a lot, it's almost half of what he had before. So we'll see what happens, but that was approved by the board. Now, Apple continues to work on expanding Apple Maps. So if we go into Maps, and within Maps, we keep seeing updates to different areas, with different cities getting more and more detailed maps. According to Justin O'Byrne, hopefully I'm saying that properly, he's a cartographer that spotted that the updated maps are being tested in new countries: Austria, Croatia, Chechnya, Hungary, Poland, and Slovenia. So all of those could be coming very soon with updated maps in the major cities like we've recently gained in other cities across the world. So hopefully we'll see that across the entire world very soon, but Apple takes a while to roll this out. Now, I did mention this in my weekend video, but if you use the MLB app, Apple has now added live activities. And if you have the MLB app, you can enable that by going into your settings, scrolling down to where you have MLB, just keep going down until you find it alphabetically, and you'll have live activities, which can show you the scores of whatever you're following in real time with frequent updates if you want them. So you can enable this or disable it, but live activities is one of the great features of iOS 16 that I think is really underrated. So that's great that more and more apps are utilizing it. WhatsApp this week has taken a positive stand when it comes to its overall encryption, where they said they would leave the United Kingdom if the government tries to undermine WhatsApp's end-to-end encryption. This is sort of a move similar to what Apple has said, where Apple said they won't compromise their overall security of their devices. And according to the head of WhatsApp at Meta, Will Cathcart, he said he'd be willing to leave the UK if they tried to compromise the end-to-end encryption. I think most users would get behind this, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. But either way, this is something that I don't think anybody really wants as far as getting rid of any more protections of privacy. So he said, we've recently been blocked in Iran, for example. We've never seen a liberal democracy do that. So the UK would be the first one to do that if it's actually blocked. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. Now, Apple continues to release updates, and Safari Technology Preview has been released with the latest version. So you can see that on their website. If you go to download Safari Technology Preview, you can see that the current version is 165. So they updated this with the latest updates, and then you can see the release notes here and see what they've actually changed as far as the code so that your website can actually comply to what's here or maybe take advantages of new features in the future. Now, good news for those in India. As I mentioned again in the previous weekend video, Apple is apparently giving India more prominence within Apple to push sales there, meaning that they've recently changed the head of global sales in the India region, and they're pushing not only more sales there, but they're also pushing more factories there as they're exiting more and more out of China. So we're seeing that diversify across the world with not only India, but also places like Vietnam and other places. Even the United States is getting new factories. So you're seeing that more and more. Apple may finally be rethinking AI, according to DigiTimes. This comes with the recent integration of ChatGPT into the Bing app. So if you have Bing, you can sign up to use that. And also Google's working on its own version. If Apple doesn't do something in the future, it will be left behind, as we're seeing this integrated more and more. But on a positive note, it could greatly improve Siri in the future, where I typically use it to maybe check for the weather and do very simple tasks such as reminders. It could better understand context and much more in the future. Let me know what you think about AI in general on maybe a device with Siri or Google Assistant. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that in the comments below. Now, I've shown this case quite a few times, and this video is sponsored by CaseCoo. This is one of their latest cases, and they come in a bunch of different colors. This is sort of a clear or semi-translucent color that looks really good on the purple iPhone 14 Pro. It has a stand built in that tilts to 40 to 120 degrees, and it's also magnetic, so you can still use your MagSafe accessories with it and charge. It has raised bezels around the camera to protect it, as well as the display, and it adds grip and protection overall. I really like their cases, and I'll be sure to link them in the description if you want to check them out. Be sure to use code ZOLOTECH for a little bit of a discount as well. And thanks again to CaseCoo for sponsoring this video. Now, there's been some controversy about taking photos of the moon, and I wanted to show you that, as Samsung has been faking the moonshot photography apparently. Now, this is something I thought a lot of us knew, but if we go into photos, now I have the iPhone 14 Pro Max on the right and the S23 Ultra on the left, and you can see the same photo was taken on the same day at the same time, and the iPhone definitely doesn't look anything like what we get with the Samsung. But that's because Samsung is apparently overlaying the moon graphic over here to make it look more real with AI. This is something I thought a lot of people knew, but apparently they don't, and it's seemingly true that they definitely are doing this. I'm sure we'll see more and more about that. I don't really mind it if it's going to enhance it overall, but getting a photo of the moon like this from a camera phone seems almost impossible. Where on the iPhone you can see it's just super bright, and that's the problem, is it's just going to be super bright as the sun is reflecting off of it. So it's very hard to get a shot like this when you're zoomed in. So it's just sort of a blurry mess of a bright light in the middle. So in general, I don't think it's too bad of an issue, but it seems to be well known at this point. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Now, any of you that have been following me for any amount of time know that I change my wallpaper every video and then give you a free link to that. This one is actually from Basic Apple Guy, and he calls it Big Starry Sur. So it's Big Sur's sort of background in a starry night form, and it's available not only for iPhone, but also Mac and iPad. So I'll link that in the description if you want to check it out. I think it looks great, and apparently a lot of people are really liking it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Now, as far as weekly deals, there's two that I wanted to mention. There's more than that, but there's two I wanted to mention. AirPods Pro 2 are again down to $199 on Amazon, sold directly by Apple. Make sure you go to the link in the description or just search for Apple on Amazon. Make sure it's directly from Apple, though. Also, the Apple Watch SE2 is down to $219 on Amazon, sold directly by Apple as well. So that's a really great deal for an SE2. There's other deals with the Apple Watch Series 8 and more. I'll link in the description, so be sure to check those out. Now, as far as iOS 16.4 Beta 4 or iOS 16.4 RC or release candidate, I would expect that as soon as tomorrow. Typically, Apple releases them every single week. Now that we went from Beta 2 to Beta 3 in a week, I would expect us to go to Beta 4 as soon as tomorrow. That's usually what Apple does. We'll get iOS 16.4 Beta 4 or RC, and then maybe, depending on which version it is, we're only a week or two away from a final release. So that seems very likely. However, it doesn't seem likely that we're going to get a March event. So it looks like we're not going to get a March or April event. Apple just may push press releases like they did with the yellow iPhone 14 and some of the new watch bands and Apple cases as well. So that seems to be likely is what they're going to do. And I would expect, though, that beta as soon as tomorrow and no March event. However, we are expecting WWDC in June. That should be announced probably within the next few weeks, as they typically do that, where we have in the first week of June, the first full week of June, we'll have the Worldwide Developer Conference 2023, where Apple will show off the next software, such as iOS 17, macOS 14, watchOS 10, and much more. So that's expected, along with some other things we'll talk about in a moment. I'm looking forward to that. I can't believe how fast time is going, and iPhone 14 Pro Max has been out for 6 months at this point. So that's crazy that we're already at that point. Now, as far as rumors and leaks this week, there's even more about iPhone 15. As expected, the base models of iPhone 15 and 15 Plus will still not feature an always-on display or ProMotion like the Pro models. Apple likes to differentiate their different models with features like that, so don't expect them to bump it to 120 Hz on the base models. It's something I think Apple should do, but apparently they're not going to do, according to the Korean Naver blog. So that's something we'll have to wait maybe for iPhone 16 for. Also, iPhone 15 is said to get an improved LiDAR sensor for 2023 supplied by Sony. If Apple's upgrading the whole camera stack as a whole, getting maybe a periscope zoom camera, I would expect them to improve the LiDAR as well with autofocus, maybe edge detection in portrait mode, and much more. That makes a lot of sense, so it doesn't really surprise me, but we can expect an upgraded LiDAR sensor. Maybe they found a way to make it even smaller. Now, Apple is still working on under-the-display Face ID. However, it was supposed to come out next year with iPhone 16, but apparently has been pushed to 2025, according to Ross Young. He's very accurate when it comes to displays overall, and it looks like the under-the-display Face ID sensors won't make it until maybe a couple years from now. Also, Apple was recently granted a new patent showing that they're still working on under-the-display fingerprint sensors. This is based on a patent found by Patently Apple, and Apple is patenting things all the time, but it's something I think a lot of people would appreciate. Press your thumb down and unlock it, or even put it in the power button like they do on the iPads. I know a lot of people would appreciate that. My brother included would really like to get rid of Face ID and use Touch ID. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but I know that opinions vary greatly, and I think a lot of people would appreciate Touch ID at this point. So hopefully they bring it back, at least in some models. Also, I wanted to share with you some Apple models that were made for case manufacturers. They're shown off by Mac Atakara. These are 3D printed models. Usually we get better models a little bit later, and I've shown those in different videos in the past many years, but this just gives you an idea of what they look like. So hopefully we'll get more and more detail as they get closer and closer to release. Now, in this week's Power On newsletter, Mark Gurman is said to expect Apple adding health features to AirPods. Now, this has long been a speculated rumor, and even some expected it with AirPods Pro 2 with maybe a heart rate sensor built in. You'd put it in your ear, it would measure your heart rate. However, the latest news is AirPods will be able to get information about hearing data of some sort within the next couple of years. So as Apple updates the AirPods, maybe AirPods Pro 3 or AirPods 4, we should get some new health features to go along with those. I think a lot of people would appreciate that if you can get some really useful data with it. So we'll have to wait and see what they do, but it seems like that could be coming in the future. Now, HomePod got a refresh and a reintroduction this year of basically the older version. This is the Mini, but rumors again are returning about a HomePod with a display in it. This time a 7-inch display, similar to maybe a Google Home or Amazon Alexa, and that's according to Ming-Chi Kuo. So we could have one with a display in it. I think it makes a lot of sense if we could manage our home hub with that, use Siri for that, and maybe just manage our home devices and use Siri's Assistant in general. Apple's the only one without one with a display, so it makes sense that they would make that soon. Now, according to the Financial Times, the upcoming mixed reality headset from Apple is not ready, but is sort of ready. According to their information, Tim Cook and Jeff Williams want to ship it this year anyway, even though the design team didn't think it's ready. This could be why the head of design recently departed, but that's just speculation. The question has always been if the device would be AR glasses or a VR headset or both or something different. Apparently, some within Apple wanted to wait until it was more refined, as Apple used to do. However, others wanted to ship a product now in the form of VR goggles that could do augmented reality as well. This seems to be more of a repeat of the Apple Watch strategy, where the initial launch was a bit of a confused product that eventually became more refined over time. And the headset has apparently been in development for 7 years, and it's been long enough and Apple wants to actually release it. It's still expected to start around $3,000 for the first version and expected to sell about 1 million units at first. Then they would move on to maybe a cheaper version later on. I'm still not sold on the whole AR VR thing. I've used Oculus, and unless they have something that's hugely impressive beyond what that can do, I don't really think that's the future of using it constantly. But if you had small glasses that could augment reality over things you're already seeing, well, then that could be a different story. So we'll have to wait and see what Apple does. But it looks like that's something that we could see as soon as June with WWDC that I mentioned before. And so that's all of the news this week. We're still waiting for new iMacs. I don't think we're going to see a 27-inch iMac. We're still waiting for that Mac Pro and much more. But let me know what you're looking most forward to. iOS 17, of course, is something I'll be covering regularly, and hopefully it's more of an update than many of us were expecting. Let me know your thoughts and things you're looking forward to in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, it will be linked in the description, like I mentioned earlier. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.